चैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकरामयं ददाति स्वापदन्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं हरिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादं सहगना श्रीशाखान्वितंश्च नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रसाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनीति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पश्चित्यदेशतारिणे नमां विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रसाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिसिद्धान्त सरस्वतीति नामिने नमो गौरकिशोराय सक्षावैराग्यमूर्ते विप्रालम्बरसाम्बोधे परं भुजायते नमः नमो भक्तिविनोदाय सच्चिदानन्दनामिने गौरशक्तिस्वरूपाय रूपनुगवरायते गौरविभावभूमेस्तां निर्देशातजनप्रिय वैष्णवसर्वभौमा श्रीजगन्नाथाय ते नमः पञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्रीरूप श्री सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ श्रीजीवगोपाल दास रघुनाथ नमो महावरण्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नमने गौरतिसे नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कंस राधा कंस नमोस्तुते सप्त कंचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदेवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासनि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So, by Krishna's mercy, I've been engaged in this activity of serving Srimad Bhagavatam under all of your guidance. So, 7th Canto, 6th chapter. The first verse of this chapter, Prabhupada includes in the preface to every single volume of Bhagavatam. Kaumara Acharya Pragyo Dharman Bhagavataniha Gurlabham Manisham Janma Tarapya Dhruvam Arthajam. From the very beginning of life, namely from the tender ages of 5 to 10 years, when the children should be educated as to how to perform devotional service to the Lord. Because this human form of life, although it's also temporary, it's extremely rare because in this life one can actually cultivate devotional service. And by a small performance of devotional service, one can be saved from the greatest type of fear. They can be saved from being vanquished, which means that by a slight performance of devotional service, we don't have to descend into the lower species of life. And so Prahlad Maharaj, he's emphasizing to his friends that if we simply perform our conditional duties, as it's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter 3rd verse, if all we focus on is our conditional duties pertaining to this body given to us by the 3 modes of material nature, which we've been conditioned from by our own misuse of free will. And so we have this body, and so all right, we have to take care of it. Perhaps we have to get a job, or perhaps we will be inclined to family life or not. But these are conditional duties. And the 3rd verse of this chapter, which is, at least personally, it helps me to at least want to surrender to Krishna. That I don't remember the Sanskrit, but that all happiness pertaining to the senses and the mind all happiness and distress pertaining to the senses and the mind is already predetermined. And so one does not need to endeavor separately for it. Just like nobody wakes up in the morning and says, and writes down, today I will get in a car accident, or today I will get sick, or today my mother is going to yell at me and she's going to nag at me a lot. No sane man plans it. At least no sane man plans this out. No one endeavors to suffer, but it comes anyway. And so similarly, also happiness comes. Like we might just be going to work one day, and an old friend from so many years back will come, and so we didn't plan for that kind of happiness. It happens anyway. So Prahlad Maharaj is stressing that this happiness and distress pertaining to the body and mind, it's already set. In fact, Prabhupada says we can't escape either the happiness or the distress. We can't escape either one of them. So we shouldn't bother ourselves with them unnecessarily. Rather, Prabhupada stresses Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam saranam vraja aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami masuchaha. We must surrender ourselves to the Lord, which Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur emphasizes that it means that we have to always remember and maintain the belief that the Lord will maintain and protect me in all circumstances. And Prahlad is a shining example of this, as Prabhu was nicely narrating, that he was so absorbed in the Lord's shelter that he didn't even realize there was a danger. He didn't even need to pray for protection, because he was so convinced that he had full shelter at Lord Vishnu's lotus feet. So because of this firm faith that the Lord would always maintain and protect him, because of this surrender, he was able to constantly meditate upon the Lord, and thus whatever happiness and distress comes, like when he was floating on the rock back to the ocean, he didn't plan on going to see his mother, but all of a sudden he's there to see his mother. All these things, it happened without his separate endeavoring. So Prabhupada, he's very much emphasizing surrendering unto Lord Vishnu and performing devotional service. Even just a little devotional service can save us from the worst type of fear. And he emphasizes that from a young age, really, he would often say for the first 25 years of life, the children should be trained as brahmacharis to hear from and serve from the spiritual master primarily, and then also to maintain a celibate life, and learning to control the senses. He emphasizes the brahmachari life so that throughout the rest of one's life, even if one does take the grihastha life, then at least he can maintain his Krishna consciousness and his detachment. And as when Narada Muni was narrating the tale of how he became Narada Muni, how he was born as a young boy from a Shudra mother, but by Krishna's mercy, him and his mother were both serving the sadhus, and so simply by serving the sadhus and taking the remnants of their foodstuff, and by hearing them constantly speak Harikatha, Narada Muni emphasized two results of hearing Harikatha when he was a young child. One was that natural detachment for material life arose because of understanding what is material life, what is the aim of life, what will really be the source of my ultimate satisfaction. And then the second result was that before a doubt could enter his mind, he would already cut it out, because he was firm on the philosophy. And so, from the sages speaking the science of how to revive the relationship with... Prabhupada says that in the first canto, when he's narrating Narada Muni's pastime of becoming Narada Muni from that young boy. And so then Prahlad Maharaj, a large section of chapter 6, he's emphasizing that we really don't, even if we live to 100 years, which in this day and age is quite an accomplishment if anyone can live to 100 years. But he said even if one does that, if one is too much attached to sense enjoyment, then he ends up sleeping more and more, up to 12 hours a day. So then you could say 50 years are gone already. And then the first 10 years of life are just spent basically in ignorance. The child, he has a very undeveloped mind. Then 10 to 20 years of age are spent in sporting and in school especially. And then shortly after that, when generally, especially if he's attached to sense gratification, then he'll go into householder life. If he's very much attached to householder life, then Prabhupada specified that it's griha medhi, not grihastha. Griha medhi means with no aim towards spiritual life. Just the aim is sense gratification. But grihastha, that's actually fit to be called an ashrama, a spiritual ashrama for cultivating Krishna consciousness. But if one spends his life as a griha medhi, then shortly after leaving school, he gets married, and then from his wife, she attracts his senses so much, then gradually they produce children, the attachment increases more. And then from the children, even, I feel very bad to say this, but me and my family did this to my dad. He has this family, and so then while he's off in India, we're saying, you know what, we're going to surprise him with 2 cats. So now we have these 2 cats, and we're chanting japa, they come sit on us and stuff, so it's like the object, even he didn't invite that object of attachment, and it comes. I feel bad that we did that to him now, because now it distracts me too. But and then gradually as the children grow up, he's absorbed in, okay, how are my children going to go through school? How are they going to get married? And then the grandchildren come, they're even greater objects of attachment. And as the man is in middle age, he's attached to his parents to serve them. This is because what's animating the body to do all of this is the soul. Am I the hand? No. Am I the foot? No. There's a conscious entity we have the same consciousness from the, Devi Nrsimha Dehi Komaram Yoganam Hantara Praptir Dhira. From babyhood to boyhood to youthhood to old age, even though it's entirely different bodies, even scientifically now they know that after every 7 years, every little, whatever smallest particle of the body has changed over a 7-year period. So if I look at a baby picture, no part of that body is in this body. It's a completely different body, but it's the same me. That was me, but really it's the same soul, the same consciousness that's animating the body. But what's animating the soul? The soul causes the body to be driven, but what causes the soul to be driven? In the 3rd canto, 9th chapter, the Lord reveals the secret to Brahmaji, that I am the soul of all the souls. And Prabhupada, we put it very sweetly that Krishna is the supreme, Krishna is the life and friend of each soul because there's natural affection between the soul and Krishna. So just as the life of the body is the soul, the life of the soul is the dormant Krishna consciousness, that dormant bhav, that Prahlad Maharaj is stressing from the beginning of life. We should fix our aim to awaken that dormant Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, we try to expand our love first Prahlad is saying to the wife. But then still, you can tell that their loving propensity isn't quite satisfied. If it was fully satisfied, there would be no need to have children. If the love was between husband and wife was fully satisfied, then there would be no impetus to have children. They could just associate with each other. But you see, there's children, and from children there's different house pets or whatever, horses, cats, dogs, whatever. And then even beyond that, one still has to have friends. One still has to try to serve the society, the nation. The Prabhupada in his preface and an introduction to Nectar of Devotion, he's stressing that our loving propensity still isn't satisfied, no matter how far we spread it, because we haven't found that one point, that we haven't found Krishna yet, the reservoir of all mellows, the receptacle of the love that we have dormant for him. And so Prahlad Maharaj is illustrating in this chapter that until we revive that dormant love, we're going to be chasing after it in all the wrong places, until gradually by the end of life, one's life is wasted, because even 50 years cut off from sleep, So the first 20 years cut off from either playing or preparing for working life. The last 20 years are cut off because one can't even perform material activities due to the body being invalid. And even at the very end of life, often there could be, I think it was King Kula Shekhar's prayers that he's saying, please allow me to leave my body now. I can still think of Krishna. Because at the time of death, perhaps my throat will be perhaps at the time of death I'll be coughing because my throat will be full of mucus. Maybe I won't even be able to think of Krishna. I won't even be able to chant Krishna's name. So just take me now while I'm healthy, please. And so, Prahlad Maharaj is saying, even if you count, Prabhupada, he analyzed it so that he says 70% of the life is wasted in different ways, basically, for one who's too materially attached. And then even the other 30% is still spent trying to satisfy the different, by trying to satisfy the wife, the children, the parents, the society. So Prahlad Maharaj, he's very much stressing that in early life, one takes to Krishna consciousness, because then at least he can be set up on how to think of Krishna, throughout one's life, how to understand that Krishna as the Supreme Soul, he's the friend of everybody, and since everyone has a dormant love for him, and we're all aham bija pradapita, we are all, each soul is the child of Krishna. Therefore, it's not difficult to please Krishna at all, actually. Prabhupada says very nicely that it can be very difficult to please one's family, one's society. It can be so difficult to please them, and if there's any discrepancy, or like say if the man can't provide for his family, then it's really actually not so easy to please the family, but it's very easy to please Krishna. Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Lord Chaitanya, he very much approves of this. Simply chanting the holy names, it's actually much easier to please Krishna because we all have our eternal relationship with him, and he's following us as the super soul, waiting for us to turn back to him. He's very much eager for us to turn back to him. So actually, Krishna, it's very easy to satisfy Krishna, and if we can satisfy Krishna, then all of our endeavors are a success. Dharma svanustitapam sam vishvaksena kathasuya notpadaya yati srama eva hi kevalam. That if one performs all his occupational activities, all his dharmas, whether he's a kshatriya, a brahmana, or a vaishya, sudra, grihastha, or some kind of renunciate, even if someone performs all of their conditional duties, but they don't awaken rati, if they don't awaken their dormant Krishna consciousness, then it's to be considered that even if they acted so-called piously, then their endeavors were ultimately a failure. Because they didn't find that ultimate satisfaction that they've always been seeking. This satisfaction, it's cultivated. Prabhupada says, the method for this is surrender, because only by surrender. Also in the 3rd canto, 8th chapter, Prabhupada says that meditation on Krishna is a symptom of self-surrender. And only by surrender to Krishna can we cultivate one of those one of the 4 favorable moods. There are also the 2 unfavorable that Shishupal and Kamsa displayed, but those weren't achieved by surrender. Those were achieved by hatred and fear. So surrender is necessary for the 4 favorable ones that we accept. What are those? The 4 favorable ones, first is mentioned the transcendental lust of the gopis. Then it is mentioned, I forget the order, but the relationship of the Vrishnis. Then there's the affection of the Pandavas, and then there's the general devotional service headed by Narada Muni and all devotees like myself. And so surrender is necessary for all of these because, like Prabhu said, the necessary qualification in all 6 of these is absorption on Krishna. That's the important one. And so, because by surrender to Krishna, Brahmaji tells in the 2nd canto, 7th chapter, he gives a list of surrendered souls that we see throughout the Bhagavatam, including Prahlad Maharaj and Narada Muni. And Brahmaji says that because because myself and all of these other souls, because we're all fully surrendered to the Supreme Lord, we can see how he's acting with his Yogamaya potencies. We can see how he's covering himself from the non-devotees, how he's revealing himself to the devotees. And so, when we can understand how Krishna acts through his Mahamaya, through his Yogamaya, then it becomes easier and easier to perceive Krishna everywhere. And Prabhupada did something fascinating in this purport that Prahlad Maharaj, actually, it's the translation. Prahlad Maharaj says in a big chunk of verses that Krishna, one can always please the Super Soul. One can always think of him because Krishna is all pervading. He's present in the material elements, in the mind. He even says Krishna is present in the false ego. That fascinated me. Mm-hmm. Krishna is present in the false ego.
Wow.
And so... Sankarshan. So Prahlad Maharaj, he's teaching his friends that one really can take full shelter of Lord Narayan. And he says, even though you're all born in demoniac families, I recommend you stay aloof from them and take shelter of the Supreme Lord through his pure devotees. They can help us to see the Supreme Lord acting through his potencies and to perceive the Lord everywhere. And so I remember I was thinking while I was reading this, well, it's mentioning that we have to go through the Lord's devotees to see him, but it mentions that in every chapter. Should I mention that to being specific to this chapter? But then I thought, well, if it's mentioned in every chapter, then it should probably be mentioned in every lecture, that we need to take shelter. Yeah, we need to take shelter of a pure devotee here. Or like that one of those verses that, the word was Abhishek. One should take Abhishek of the dust of a lotus feet of a pure devotee. And that in 2nd canto, 3rd chapter, it's elaborated further that one who does not take the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee on his head is considered to be a dead body walking. Dead body walking. And Prabhupada in that purport, he yeah, that one struck me too. Yeah, he brought up Jadbar instructing Maharaj Rahuganan that one has to accept the dust from a lotus feet of a pure devotee in order, or even for impersonal liberation, one has to accept the dust. One has to accept the shelter of a Brahmavadi Paramahamsa. So even for that, one needs the shelter. One needs the shelter of a Paramahamsa either way. And so especially for pure devotional service, since the pure devotees, they've already awakened the fire of prema bhakti in their heart. And so Prabhu, he's often given me this analogy that our dormant love is like a big log of wet wood. It's in this dark well. And so the only way to ignite the fire that's in this wood, it's not to chop it into little pieces and look for the fire, because then we'll never find the fire. Rather, it's to bring an outside fire to ignite the inner fire. But since the reason it's a wet log is because the whole reason we're in this material world, it's misuse of free will. We don't want to ignite our prema bhakti for Krishna. We want it to turn away. We want it to be the Ishvaras ourselves. So Prabhupada said that although Krishna, he tried to get us not to fall into this trap, but in order to honor our use or misuse of free will, he sanctioned it, and for it to be possible for us to think that we can enjoy separately and independently of Krishna, he has to put us in illusion. There's no way we could be fully aware of how Krishna is all-pervasive through his potency, how he's all-powerful. There's no way we could, if we're fully aware of that, there's no way we could think of ourselves as the supreme enjoyer. So, to be merciful, he gives us the 5 coverings of avidya.
Thank you. There you go. Okay.
And so, okay, last note or?
Go last note.
And so just, so, because he put these 5 layers of avidya can be compared to water on the log, soaked deep into the log. And so, we have to stay in touch with the pure devotees, either through their vapu or through their vani, because to let a wet log on fire, you have to hold the fire there for a much longer time, and there's more smoke. So, it may seem for a while like, I was doing a lot better before I actually took Krishna consciousness seriously. So we have to keep ourselves even.
Did you understand the logic of this thing?
Yeah. Krishna Nama Charitadi Sitapya Vidya. That Rupa Goswami says that although we have the jaundice of avidya, that so it is going to be painful to constantly keep ourselves in Krishna consciousness, but the solution is keep ourselves. Yeah, that's the only way that the wood's going to dry up. First there's one transformation, coming to liberation, drying up. Then the next transformation, the dormant love is igniting.
So it's avidya to vidya.
And then vidya is a pure bhakti. Alright.
We just gotta keep ourselves in Krishna.
Yes. Keep ourselves in there. And it gradually gets more tasty. Like, even just the anarthas listening out, it's like, wow, if we feel that
it's relief, you feel happy.
So even just from the relief, and then Prabhupada says after the stage of Nishtha, the rest actually comes quickly. Ruchi, Shakti, Bhava, he said it. Yeah. Then praying. And then, like we were saying on Thursday, even from praying there's 10 higher stages, but...
Wow.
Even
Bhava has 10 stages or so.
Mahala, no. Symptoms.
9 symptoms, yeah. But yeah, so basically, Prahlad Maharaj is saying that we should keep ourselves in touch with these Vaishnava Paramahamsas so that we can awaken our dormant love. As far as I could understand, that was the essence of that chapter.
Very good.
Very good.
Very good.
Haribol. What was that quote about the dead body walking?
Second canto, third chapter. I want to say 19th verse. I could be wrong.
I think it was dead body walking.
Second canto.
Dead body walking. Dead body walking. Okay. Let me look it up.
Okay.
It's just really interesting because Christ says, I'm the truth, the way, and the light to life. And they always talk about in the lectures about how Christ brings life. And so with dead bodies walking, but Christ, by his word, by the dust of his feet, can bring a dead body walking, bring it to life.
Wow. You don't have to go through whole prayers. Just
Okay.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Krishna Bhaktivedanta Narayana Guru Chandaya Radhikaya Pranaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Sarvataya Namo Panchakalpaturuyasya Kripasanaviya Patitanam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So, I know we're speaking about qualifications, we shouldn't have this, but I'm not qualified to speak. By the mercy of Amravendra Guru, he's forcing me to. And I'm gladly accepting this instruction. So, I'm instructed to speak on 7th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. But, due to Prabhu's causeless mercy once again, I only have to speak on half. My sister's going to speak the other half.
are you going to speak up? Good.
So, in this chapter is about Prahlad Maharaj and the instructions she received from Narada Muni in the womb of his mother, Kayadu. So when Hiranyakashipu, he left to go do severe austerity in a mountain, I forget the name of the mountain. Mandar Hill. So Kayadu was pregnant, and Lord Indra and the demigods, they thought that in her womb was a demon similar to Hiranyakashipu, and so they wanted to kill this demon, and they had a plan to kidnap her and keep her until she had a child so that they could kill the child when it was born. And so she was very scared, and they went through with the plan, and they kidnapped her, and she was very afraid, she didn't know what to do. But Narada Muni came and he intercepted, and he said, no, you're all foolish actually, that the child of this, that she actually, first of all, you shouldn't be treating her like this, because she is the wife of another, and she has no, bad qualities. You should not be treating her like she's a prisoner. So this is your first wrongdoing. And secondly, her child is actually a pure devotee of the Lord. And so you actually don't know what you're doing, Actually, I'll take her with me. And so, Lord Indra, they realized that, of course, Nrsimha is his personal associate, and he obviously knew truth, and so they submitted to his will, and they circumambulated her, because her child obviously was a pure devotee of the Lord. And so they let her go with Nrsimha, and so he took her to his abode, and he had her stay there. He said, "You'll stay here until your child is born. As long as Hiranyakashipu is not around, you stay here and you be with me, and I'll take care of you." So she stayed, and she started to perform. She served Nrsimha very nicely. She served him, and he allowed her to serve him. So he instructed her on Bhagavad Dharma, which is a path of Bhakti Yoga, actually. And so, because being a woman, this is what it says in Bhagavatam, it says that because she was a woman and being of less intelligence, she couldn't remember the instructions. But Prahlad Maharaj, he could, and he was listening he was taking advantage of the situation and listening to all the instructions that Narada Muni gave in the womb. And so he kept all this. And so Prahlad Maharaj was then telling, after he was born, he was telling his classmates, he was saying that the spirit is always apart from the material, but the spirit actually never changes. The spirit always stays the same, material goes through changes. And he was speaking that simply if you just have faith in what I'm saying, and we've heard this so many times, Abhay was just saying that if you just have faith in my instructions, then the understanding will come. Even though you're born in these demoniac families, all you have to do is have faith in what I'm saying, and the understanding will come. He's saying that a tree changes, it goes through these 6 changes. And the body is similar to a tree in this way, that it goes through growth, maintenance, and then starts to deteriorate and death. But the soul doesn't change. It stays this way. And the Lord's 8 material energies, the 3 modes, and 16 transformations, that within these, the one spirit soul acts as the observer. So the soul is always separate, but within these things. And because of this, it becomes conditioned. Because of all of these things, the material energies, the 3 modes, that the soul actually becomes conditioned, it becomes covered over. But it's actually simply the observer. It's not acting on any of these things in any way. It's just observing these things happen. And so, this unwanted temporary condition, this material condition, is always there. But the soul, it's always striving, its constitutional position is as a eternal servant of the Lord. And so, in this way, Prahlad Maharaj describes that the only duty is to come to Krishna consciousness. And I love what he says. He says this at the end of the chapter. He says that the duty of coming to Krishna consciousness, what happens is it burns the seed of fruitive activity created by the modes, and stops the endeavoring in this way. Which is really, it's nice description, because when we hear about the seed entering the heart, that Guru places into the heart, that there's also a seed of fruitive activity, there's also a seed of material tendency, and that Krishna consciousness can actually uproot, like it burns the seed. And when a seed is burnt, it has no ability to grow, it can't be germinated. You take a seed and you put it in a fire and try to plant it in the ground, nothing will happen. Even if you water it continuously, pray, nothing will happen. It won't grow. So, this is good news. And he basically says when one takes to Krishna consciousness, then ignorance is immediately dissipated. And intelligence just comes. It just comes by having faith in the instructions of pure Vaishnava. So if we can do anything in this life, just have faith in the instructions of pure Vaishnava. I'm not speaking for myself because my faith is really small.
Do you have a citation for the faith in the pure devotee?
Like exactly which text?
Would come?
Like exactly which text?
I mean,
Yeah, there's many.
yeah.
Oh, an understanding will come? No, I'm just quoting Prahlad Maharaj in this chapter.
He says this.
He says in this chapter, yes.
Yeah, just so that Bharavakti is very good. Tashrita Pratikarabdha Prakasham.
Yeah, Prahlad Maharaj actually says in this chapter. So,
very good. You can speak from there if you want. Otherwise you will change your step on floor. What?
Okay.
Go ahead. Shachiputram saurupam rupam tasyagrajam urupurim gostupatim Radha kundam givaram mohoradhikamadavasam taptajasya pratikipaya gurutam natosmi. That's a manashiksha.
Most worshipful spiritual master Srila Bhaktivinoda Maharaj and equal anonymous unto Sri Srila Bhaktivinoda Maharaj and all Guru Parampara and all Vaishnavas present here. Pardon His mercy, I've been instructed to speak something on the chapter of Sita, where Prahlad Maharaj, he was just speaking about how this Bhakti Yoga destroys the seed of ignorance. And then he says, of all the processes there are to obtain freedom from this material entanglement, why shouldn't we accept that process which is recommended by the Lord Himself? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sadhubhavam Pritadya Mamikam Sarvamudra. We should accept this devotional service to surrender unto me. This is the one process that is recommended by God Himself. And in order to do this, then Prahlad Maharaj immediately says he's coming to the culmination of everything he said so far. This necessity of accepting a bona fide spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada said in the purport that one's first duty is to accept a bona fide spiritual master in order to practice Bhakti Yoga. And not only accepting a bona fide spiritual master means to render service to him with devotion and faith. Having faith, just like what you understand. Having this faith. What was it? Having faith is one's realization comes by having this faith. All you have to do is have faith, and then you'll understand it. And then by rendering service unto the spiritual master, one can always meditate on the Supreme Personality of God. And this is by rendering service unto the spiritual master, eventually one will be able to honor every single living entity according to the living entity's platform. Prahlad Maharaj says this here too. That in order to do this, we were doing sitting class last week on Monday, Victor's devotion, what the necessity of honoring all of the different Vaishnavas according to their level. So many different reasons. We have to honor, one of them is because we have to know, we have to be able to recognize the pure devotee, know who he is, so that we can know who we can submit ourselves to and who can give us that which what we're looking for. That's just one reason, there's so many reasons to discuss. And then, by rendering service unto the pure devotee, by performing all these activities, eventually the influences of all these the 6 enemies, lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, jealousy, all these things are completely cut when one's rendering service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Prahlad Maharaj described that a devotee who's reached this platform, he completely abandons all self-consciousness and like self-awareness, and he just chants like a madman, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama. And when he hears the transcendental qualities and activities of the Lord, his hair stand on end and tears fall from his eyes, and he dances randomly and sings loudly and cries and all these things. And this is here in the purport of this verse, verse 34, Srila Prabhupada explains the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. He says that the Lord's activities are very uncommon. He says, when he was 5 years old, he lifted up Govardhan Hill and he stole the clothes of the gopis, and he built a bridge when he was Lord Rama. He built a bridge across the entire ocean. So persons who are not devotees, they look at these things and they think them to be mythological. They think this is fictitious because they can't imagine that it's just too. It's like they can't see that any ordinary man could do these things, and so they think this is completely just made up. But a pure devotee, when he hears these things, then he exhibits all of these symptoms of ecstasy, and he begins crying, and he's completely absorbed in chanting and dancing in complete jubilation. And this is the difference between devotee and non-devotee. And then Prahlad Maharaj, he's saying that the real problem of life is this repetition of birth and death, which is like a wheel rolling repeatedly up and down. And this wheel is rolling and rolling and rolling. We're coming from birth, death, old age, disease, again and again and again. But when one comes in contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this wheel completely stops. And all of our, with coming with this transcendental bliss, all of our material engagement, our entanglement, all of these things are completely lost. And he presents this logic that when one can realize, it comes to the understanding that I am eternal, I'm not this body, that my soul is eternal, then how can he seek to derive happiness from all of these material objects which are so temporary? If he understands himself to be everlasting and to outlast all those things, then how can he think to enjoy these things if they'll just go away so fast? And in this way, he stops endeavoring for all of these things. He stops endeavoring for mundane happiness. And he says that these 4 principles of advancement, spiritual life, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, they're all dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he's not satisfied by any of these things. The only thing that satisfies Krishna is one-pointed devotional service, offering one's mind, body, and words with favorable intention and mood. And this surpasses all of these material achievements, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, all of these things.
You can come in. Hare Krishna. Have a seat. We are having Hari Katha. You can hear.
So he stresses again and again, Sadhu Maharaj is saying, none of these things can please the Lord. Charity, austerity, sacrifice, cleanliness, nothing can satisfy the Lord with this devotional service. And so then he's instructing his friends, "O sons of demons, anyone, by the Lord's mercy, anyone can revive his original and dormant spiritual love for the Lord. It doesn't matter whether you're the most unintelligent class, Shudra, Yakshas, Rakshasas, anyone, all the lower animals, they can all have this opportunity to revive this dormant love." So he ends in saying, he urges all of his friends to take up this process because it's the highest of all processes, and it's the end conclusion. It's the most sublime method for attainment, and it's superior to all of these other processes. And so, after saying all of these things, after instructing his friends about the temporary existence and how much in danger we are and how we can die in a moment, and how our lives can be used up so quickly by sleeping and attachment to sense gratification. He says, so now, at this young age, take up this process and without delay. And that's the end of the 7th chapter.
Very good. Very good. Damodar Puri is doing 9, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Abhay.
Oh, Abhay?
But he's 8.
Yeah.
You're doing 9.
7, 8, 9.
You finished 7 now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You want to do? 10?
Is there any sloka?
After break.
1, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Hey, Bhutan, is scared of going?
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. You don't know that sloka?
Namashishtam manumati
Satiputram atra sarupam rupam tasya grajam urupurim gostavadim Radha kundam girivaram ahoradika madhvasam praptarjasya pratipaya Sri Guru Panchakalpa Padukashra Kila Sindhupaya Mukam karoti vachalam pangulangayate girim jatvipatamaham vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam.
So this is the chapter when Lord Nrsimha actually kills Hiranyakashipu. There's some things leading up to that. Actually in the beginning of the chapter, Prabhupada is very heavy about one particular point. That Samdana saw how all of the classmates of Prahlad Maharaj had been totally transformed. They had very frivolous nature beforehand, like children. They had no inclination for bhakti or for spiritual progression. But Prabhupada is very heavy that by the association of Prahlad Maharaj, with an open heart, they received this bhakti very quickly. That when Prahlad Maharaj gave these suggestions, first they were like, oh, Prahlad Maharaj, let's wait till we're older, then he gave all these instructions. But they listened with an open heart. And Prahlad Maharaj, of course, is a pure devotee, he's a Siddha Bhakta, that by his association and his Harikatha, they heard faithfully with open heart and their heart was totally transformed. Prabhupada quotes particularly Satam Prasangam Mama Vidya Samlido
Bhavanti Karna
So they tasted something. In other words, that what they heard from Sri Prahlad Maharaj gave them some higher relishment other than what they were able to access through their youthful playing. So then naturally this endeavor for Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha they gave up very easily actually. Because it doesn't say what stage they came to, at least here I didn't see, in terms of the progression of bhakti. But at least from Shraddha must have been there. Shraddharati Bhakti Anupramishati. Shraddha comes first by Sadhu Sanga. And by that Shraddha Shraddhe Vishwash Kohe Sudhida Nishaya Krishna Bhakti They had that strong, determined faith that by performance of Krishna Bhakti, everything and any other responsibility that is conceivable is automatically taken care of by performance of one point in Krishna Bhakti. So they had that faith, and therefore they easily gave up all of the teachings of Sanda and Amarta. They rejected very easily about how to pursue Dharma, Artha and Kam. They gave up those instructions and those endeavors because they had this firm Shraddha and Krishna Bhakti now by the association of Prahlad Maharaj. So Prabhupada is very happy about this point. So then Sanda and Amarta, after returning, they had entrusted the boys to the care of Prahlad Maharaj, and he then converted them, made them devotees. Then when they came back, they saw the changed inclination of all of the students. They became very worried. So immediately they identified that Prahlad Maharaj was the source of this transformation, and they reported it to Hiranyakashipu. They told Hiranyakashipu that now not only is your son opposed to you and favorable to Vishnu, to Krishna, but now he is canvassing others, he is polluting the minds of all these other boys who are here in our school. So Hiranyakashipu became extremely furious. And he decided at that point that now the Prahlad Maharaj, so many times I've tried to destroy him, now not only is he surviving, but he is spreading. He's contagious. He is spreading this Krishna Bhakti to others. So I must kill him. I will kill him. So he called Prahlad Maharaj, and Prahlad Maharaj was very humble. Although Hiranyakashipu, even by an eyebrow we were hearing earlier, raising an eyebrow, all the demigods would shiver in fear. Prahlad Maharaj had no fear whatsoever. He approached his father without any fear or contempt or even feelings of anger or resentment towards his father for anything that had happened previously. He approached him with a completely pure heart, hands folded, and Hiranyakashipu was furious. He said, "You have become more defiant than any other person in this creation. I have conquered all three planetary systems, and nobody opposes me. No one dares to oppose me." So Hiranyakashipu was actually curious that there's not one person in these three planetary systems that oppose my will. But you're a 5-year-old boy, my son. You have no fear in opposing me. So he actually wanted to know, what is the source of your power? What is the source of your confidence? That no one else in these three worlds has this kind of confidence to defy me like this. How did you become so powerful that you are able to resist my wrath? You're able to resist this anger that I am expressing towards you. So Prahlad Maharaj replied famously that there is only one source of all Shakti in this world. That one source is the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, Lord Vishnu, and by him the power for anything and everything that is existing here, the power of the demigods, the power of the men, and the power of you yourself is also given and sanctioned by him. So therefore I recommend that it is in your best interest that you should surrender unto him from who your power has come. So then, of course, Hiranyakashipu, of demoniac nature, when God is glorified, then the demons oppose, asuras oppose, and we can see that even today. When there is a theistic expression, or when Harikatha is trying to be preached, there's so many governments or scientists, etc., who will try to oppose this spreading of Krishna consciousness, of theistic thought.
So Hiranyakashipu, also great atheist, he became more infuriated by Maharaj's glorification of Krishna. So he said, "Oh, he is the source of all power. Where is he? I want to see him." And Prahlad Maharaj said, "Oh, he is everywhere. He is maintaining everything. Every single atom he is present." So then in a very defiant mood, Hiranyakashipu asked, "Is he present in this pillar?" And Prahlad Maharaj said, "Yes, of course. The Lord is all-pervading, sustaining everything in existence. He is also present in this pillar." So one point that Prabhu makes quite often is that the perception in this world that the jiva who is Tathastha Shakti has the option and the capacity to see both under the illusion of Mahamaya and under the shelter of Yogamaya. So Prahlad Maharaj is seeing that in this pillar, he is actually seeing, it's not just theoretical, that Krishna is everywhere. He is seeing that, yes, my Lord is there. He is under the shelter of Yogamaya, so he is seeing things as they are originally constituted in relationship to Krishna. But Hiranyakashipu is not under Yogamaya, he is under Mahamaya, so he is seeing things as they are separated from Krishna. He is seeing that this is just a pillar made of stone. But Prahlad Maharaj is seeing that Krishna is there. But the thing is that both of them have correct vision in their own right. Both are correct. In one sense, it's a pillar made of stone. But in a higher sense, from the perspective of a devotee, it is sustained by Krishna, and Krishna is present there. So both are accurate according to their perspective. So for us, we also have that capacity, being Tathastha Shakti, to be under Yogamaya or Mahamaya. And in many places in Bhagavatam, and here is one very clear example of how that differentiation of vision is made. And not only that vision is different, but based on that vision, how the activities change. So then Hiranyakashipu very defiantly, he actually struck with his fist. He struck with his fist the pillar. And as soon as he struck, then immediately a very ferocious and scary sound came out. And Hiranyakashipu, hearing the sound, he was able to understand that this is not any creature that I have encountered before. I have conquered all three worlds. I have fought many different classes of men and categories of creatures. But this sound I have never heard before, so it must be something unique. And by this, Lord Nrsimha manifested from the pillar, and he upheld Sri Prahlad Maharaj's words. Prahlad Maharaj exclaimed that yes, Krishna is present here, just like Krishna instructed Arjuna, Konteya pratijanahi mame bhakta pranashyati, that you declared, Arjuna, because I have the tendency that sometimes I promise things and then I go back on them. Like in the case of Bhishma Dev, I promised that I wouldn't fight, but I grabbed the wheel and I was charging at him. So I may have some tendency that if I promise something on my own, that I may give it up, I may not follow through. But if my devotee makes one promise, if he exclaims anything, then I am bound to follow his instruction. I am bound to fulfill his words. So this is also applicable for us in our sadhana, that when we approach the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnava and we melt his heart, then he develops that desire that they should have Krishna Bhakti, they should have Prem Bhakti. Then we are bound to have it. Time may be separating to see how this anartha-nivritti is taking place, or so many struggles are there, but once that desire is made, and once that desire comes in the heart of Krishna's associate, then it's only a matter of time. Krishna is bound to fulfill. And that was exhibited in Jagai and Madai. When Nityananda Prabhu, he saw Jagai and Madai, their activities, he developed this desire that I want to see how my Lord delivers them. He is Paramakuru, Mahavadanyaya. He is the most merciful incarnation. So I want to see how these two most sinful brothers, they have committed all sinful activities that I have never seen before. I want to see how my Mahaprabhu will deliver them. So when he approached Mahaprabhu and expressed this desire, Mahaprabhu said, they are already delivered. Nityananda Prabhu said, no, I was just with them, they were drunk, you should see them, they're not delivered. And Mahaprabhu said, no, they are already delivered. Because your desire was there, that they should be delivered, they should have bhakti, then I am bound to fulfill that desire. So in the same way here, Lord Nrsimha,
He's upheld Shripada Maharaj's statement that he was present in that pillar, and he manifested. And immediately Hiranyakashipu actually became fearful, almost to the point where he was disarmed, that his fury was overcome by his fear. But in order for the fight to actually take place, somebody has to have, confidence that they can win, confidence that they can defeat the enemy. So then again, Hiranyakashipu became very strong in his desire that he would defeat Lord Nrsimha. And he actually spoke, he kind of spoke himself up. There's a couple verses there where he's saying that I can defeat anyone. So then Hiranyakashipu and Lord Nrsimha began to fight. And one of the things that I noticed happened during the fight between Nrsimha and Hiranyakashipu that was very interesting is that when Lord Nrsimha had grasped Hiranyakashipu in his hand, or in his hands, I don't know, then it looked like he had captured him and then the fight would be over. And the demigods became very hopeful. They became very excited because they were dominated by Hiranyakashipu for so long. It was like a fever, Shukadeva Goswami said. It was like a very heavy fever. And they had some hope that this fever would be removed, so they were very happy. But then Lord Nrsimha let Hiranyakashipu out of his grip purposely. And Hiranyakashipu regained some confidence. And all the demigods became very afraid. Oh my Lord, what are you doing? So apparently that, at least they're exhibiting, they did not understand that what is the Lord's enjoyment in this pastime. They could not understand from the perspective of Bhakti Ras that has been given to us by Srila Goswami, that the Lord is also enjoying in this pastime. Beyond the act of protecting his devotee Prahlad Maharaj, the Lord has his own interest for enjoying Vir Ras, which is the origin of Jai and Vijay coming here so that Lord Nrsimha can fight. So by letting go of Hiranyakashipu, then Hiranyakashipu felt more enlivened to fight. And so then the fight was more tasty for Lord Nrsimha. But the demigods apparently couldn't understand from this perspective of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami. So in that sense, we're very fortunate. Not only is our Ishtadev Swayam Bhagavan Shri Krishna, but even all of his avatars and incarnations, we from the perspective of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can see them in a more complete form than even the devotees of those specific incarnations. Narayan, Ramchandra, all incarnations of Krishna, we can see in a more complete perspective, seen from the perspective of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we're very fortunate in that regard. So then, later, just at the junction of day and night and twilight, Lord Nrsimha captured Hiranyakashipu. He sat in the corridor and he placed him on his lap and he teared him apart with his fingernails. And of course keeping it intact, all of the boons of Brahma, because Brahma is also his devotee, his bhakta. So he upheld the boon that Brahmaji delivered. But just very perfectly and geniusly he killed Hiranyakashipu. And then we hear that he garlanded himself with the intestines of Hiranyakashipu. And not only that, but he pulled out his heart and he held it. And he actually looked at it affectionately. So, I don't know the reference for this, but I was hearing that this signifies that Lord Nrsimha's extreme appreciation and affection for Jai, who came as Hiranyakashipu, that he is showing the world that don't think this is any ordinary demon. Rather, he has done a highest service for me, that he is in Vaikuntha, the guardian of my gate. But recognizing my desire to taste Vir Ras, immediately he agreed that yes, whatever you desire, I will fulfill. Even if that means I take birth as a demon, that's okay. I will fulfill your desire to taste Vir Ras. So making that sacrifice, coming here and engaging as an enemy, and being seen as an enemy in the eyes of so many in this world who hear these pastimes, don't appreciate Hiranyakashipu's position as being actually a very high servant of Lord Narayan to facilitate his desire to be a best. So taking that position, Lord Nrsimha was very appreciative and affectionate to him, so he garlanded himself with his intestines, and he ripped out his heart. So that in this heart of Jai is so much affection from him. So this heart is very dear to me also, so he took it out. And then threw the body aside, but he kept the heart. Saying, this heart is very important to me, this heart is very dear to me, because so much affection my associate Jai has for me. So then, after killing Hiranyakashipu, Lord Nrsimha was still in his Ugra form, very ferocious and scary. There was blood from Hiranyakashipu was scattered on his mane. His hair standing on end was piercing the clouds and scattering any kind of demigods' airplanes that were in the air. So all of the demigods present began to offer prayers, beginning with Brahma and Shiva and Indra. Then, of course, the Pitris, Gandharvas, so many gave prayers. And I don't remember the details of those prayers, but one thing Prabhupada says is that Lord Brahma says that no one can understand your wonderful influence. And Prabhupada says in the purport that it is very difficult to understand the activities of the Lord. One may raise the doubt that how is it that Lord Narayan is, in order for his enjoyment, he's sending his associates to take these birth and as demons, accepting an asura bhav, atheistic nature. And why his pure devotee he's sending into the family of that same demon to be tortured. That is very difficult to understand. So Prabhupada indicating that without the guidance of the Guru Parampara, the Acharyas, then these activities are very difficult to understand. And also the activities of Krishna's devotees is very difficult to understand. Prabhupada quotes that verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So many demigods offered their prayers, but there was no change in the state of Lord Nrsimha. He was still very ferocious. So then the transition from the 8th chapter to the 9th chapter, the 8th chapter ends with all of the prayers of the demigods. They offered from a distance. They didn't approach Lord Nrsimha actually, because they were very fearful or taken back by his form. And then 9th chapter begins with Prahlad Maharaj being requested to offer his prayers. Jai.
Jai So we'll take a little break and now we're going to do 9.
Okay.
And then Abhay will end with 10. And then we'll have a subject, I'll talk. So I'll talk, I spoke already for a long time.
Are people coming at a certain time?
Huh?
Maybe a new time.